Hello and welcome back, all of you amazingly professional consumers of Pax Day and Pax Day related content out there. I'm Altari, the professional gamer, and in this video, we are getting the almost 1 hour's worth of unedited interview footage. It's got commentary, it's got probably some gameplay in it as well, and it's just really our whole interview. We ask a whole heck of a lot of questions. You have 3 different developers that are joining us, as well as Thivine, who is in the background. You can kind of hear her voice. She might pop in a couple of times. And then we were joined specifically today by Pater, Solka, and a new face that we haven't seen yet on any video, and that is Christian. He is the lead combat designer for Pax Day. He joined the team, I think, earlier this summer. So he is relatively fresh, but he's already making a lot of awesome changes to the combat system, which I think will be for the better. And you all have seen Pater and Solka on the previous interviews that we've done on this channel. So we were more than gracious to see them as well. And we were joined by a whole heck of a lot of other content creators from various mediums as well. So you'll see a couple of different faces popping up throughout the interview, but I hope you all enjoy. And if you do, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe so you can get notified whenever we come out with new Pax Day and Pax Day related content, and share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in learning about all of the things that are changing with the Proving Grounds. In this video in particular, we also go into talking about some things to do with knighthoods, as well as parishes, as well as money. And there's a lot of kind of future spection that is going into this video too. And that goes without saying that this is one of 2 other videos, well, one of 3 total videos, I guess, that came out today. So if you're interested in just getting a general overview or just looking at the gameplay that was shown, both of those videos are linked down in the description below. I highly recommend that you go and check those out as well. We will be coming out with another video talking about our thoughts and opinions on the interview and everything that we learned, coming out later this week. But anyways, I'll let you all get to what is going on in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
To do in terms of player controls and the combat response was to increase responsiveness and usability of this. So actions will be more immediate when you do them, and you can cancel actions into other actions. I could showcase a bit of that. First of all, we got rid of the automatic walk thing. It's still an option. You can enable it in the options screen if you like that way of playing, but it introduces a lot of issues in terms of, like, for example, in combat situations, you accidentally went into walk mode when you didn't want to, and that caused a lot of deaths. So right now the default movement mode is running. You can still toggle to walking, because there are still a lot of good reasons to do just walking, like RP reasons, or just you want to have a bit more fine control in tight spaces. A big thing is a melee system. So we reused a lot of the old animations in terms of melee, but it's from player's perspective, you could almost say that it's a completely new thing. So first of all, you can, once you start attacking, you can cancel into blocking. You can basically chain attacks much quicker into other attacks. You can cancel an attack immediately into a special attack, and basically we just allow you to kind of have more control of your character. On top of this, we basically have this targeting system that I cannot showcase here. It will automatically kind of face whatever enemy you're fighting, and there's a basically a movement assist in play, which will kind of steer you towards the target as well, as long as you're within reasonable, like, distance from them, and have a you're basically aiming roughly at that direction. This doesn't remove the user control in this case, so we have accurate selection of targets. You can switch between multiple targets if you wish to. I could showcase this actually quickly with some of our debug commands. Just spawning a couple of non-aggressive enemies here, and basically I can target switch between them very easily. What else? Spell casting. I don't have an offensive spell right now, but after a while I will. We improved spell targeting as well. One of the problems was that people were saying that in tight spaces it was a bit hard. Like if there was a lot of enemies around, it was hard to kind of selectively target a certain enemy. We improved that to be much more precise. Also for spellcasting, we introduced spellcasting bars that were visible on the screen. You can see spellcasting bars of your own spells and also the spells of other players and opponents. Basically, when I start casting, I see a casting bar. If I cancel it, I will. Can someone else also cast a spell so we can see it?
Yep. Oh shoot! I changed my gear. I'll do it in a sec.
Oh. There we go.
Oh yeah, there we go.
And targeting is like much more precise now.
And you can cancel the spellcasts.
You should, by the way, see the loot timer on the Zebian that I killed.
Yep. So here we can see the loot time. I cannot loot the corpse because it wasn't killed by me. We also changed quite a bit of like blocking mechanics. Like right now, let's take one else. Blocking still works same as before, but we are now forcing you to walk-in mode when you're blocking. And also, if you block, you actually do not regenerate any stamina. For some reason, I have infinite stamina right now. But that's what's happening as well.
Hello, y'all. This is Eltari, and I just wanted to interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to notify you that there is an incredible event that is going to be happening this Saturday on the US East Danu RP server, specifically in the Golden Island of Dolavan. If you spawn in right at the Petra Day, you will see it. Chances are you won't be able to spawn in there because it's kind of full, but everyone who is watching this video, you are invited. We have been spending the last several weeks as the Golden Company putting together an awesome festival. It's going to be filled with a lot of different prizes, activities, and fun things to do, and you all as players are more than welcome to join. It goes without saying to remind all of you that anything that you get in the current game will transfer over into the new update. And with that, we are giving away a lot of magical items all the way up to the tattered level of the most rare items that you can get in game for a lot of different things. We have the Great Golden Challenge. It's kind of like the Amazing Race. It's going to take you and your teammates all the way across a very large portion of the Golden City, solving different riddles and competing against other teams in order to get to the finish line first, wherever that might be. And there are some really great magical item prizes. If you are interested in joining, all you have to do is go over to the Professional Gamer Discord and sign up with your team of 3. Information on how to do that will be posted by Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do go over there and check that out. But we have a lot of other events. We have Bobbing for Apples. We have several different slides that you can go down, jumping puzzles, and a whole lot more. That's going to all start happening at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and go throughout the entire day for a whole heck of a lot of fun on Saturday, November 2nd. So go ahead and check all of that out, and I will let you get back to your regularly scheduled programming. See you in the next video.
These are the basics. Should we go and kill some enemies in the PvE sites?
Yep. Sure. Oh, and by the way, when we're saying that you like the loot timer is based on kills, it's the determining rule is basically the player in the party who caused the most damage gets the loot access. So it's you can't just like snipe the loot by just doing the last one health.
While you guys are walking, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So if you have multiple parties, how does that work? For loot timers, is it just whichever party did the most damage, or is there like a threshold?
Each party essentially will be each party the damage from all the members in each party is tallied together, and when the enemy dies, it's the party that dealt relatively the most damage combined since the enemy last reset. So let's say you attack an enemy, it kills you, it resets, and then it resets kind of that pool.
Yeah, and the other thing you might be noticing is we hugely improved the replication for the player movement. So you can actually maybe see how smoothly like the other people on the screen are actually moving, because this used to be like pretty choppy, so that even like if you try to capture screens where like there were a lot of people walking, like it used to be a bit janky, and like now it's actually like it's a lot smoother. Yeah, so the buildings we're at, this is one of the new PvE sites where again like just designed so that it's much easier to engage a smaller number of enemies.
Yeah, so these solo camps are basically
For
these camps.
This
Yeah. These are for solo content, and these are kind of like a way for players to also game spells if they don't have access to the group content. Those spells will be... I can actually demonstrate one of them right now. So it's an out of combat heal. Allows me to kind of channel a heal, and this will reduce player downtimes when they are doing PvE by quite a bit, because one of the pain points is that early game players don't have any heals. This way the game should feel more smooth, much more earlier. Another one is a stamina heal. So this becomes relevant because, like I said during blocking, stamina is not regenerating anymore. So in dungeon gameplay, you will need to likely have situations where healing stamina to your tank might be beneficial. Other uses could be like gathering. You just want to heal your stamina quickly and continue. There's probably others as well. Third one is going to be useful for traversal and PvP. So it's a movement speed buff. It gives me increased movement speed and infinite sprint stamina for 7 seconds. It also removes movement impairing effects. So if you get snared, you can just use that and off you go. Also, all the wildlife have been kind of for skinning have been rebalanced. So previously, some of the, especially the higher tier wildlife, was kind of very hard to do fight solo, and people were using the mesmerize and Pilgrim's Fire tactic to defeat them. We have fixed that abuse, but we also rebalanced all the animals, so it's not needed anymore.
And I guess, Christian, you added more animals so that or like different difficulty levels, so it's not, so by balancing, basically, there's like more animals like on different difficulty tiers, so it's actually
Yes.
with corresponding loot. So just overall, like the hunting experience is better, like no matter like what the level is that you're doing it.
Yeah, and we introduced the skinning skill as well, which will allow you to get better as a skinner. So you're gonna get better yields of from the same animals as you do it more.
Yeah, then there's, like Solka mentioned, there's plenty of new building pieces. I actually don't have the number, but there's quite a few building pieces. Both some that are like brand new in kind of like theme and usability, but there's also the different building sets that we had before were not completely consistent. There were like some missing pieces and some that where you couldn't really build the same kind of structures. So all of them have kind of been filled out with some of the pieces that they were missing. There's also like curved beams, vines, or stuff like that.
So was that for the combat side, or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Before we close up the combat side,
Yep.
I have a question about Mez Fireball. Like, is the plan for that system to stay the same, or are we building or moving away from that?
Mess Fireball is basically right now what happens is that the damage over time effect will break the Mesmerize. So that's not possible anymore. Also, Pacify has been nerfed. So Pacify, especially the lower ranks, were like way too powerful in terms of stamina cost, and also in terms of like how much of the visibility range of the enemies it disabled. Right now they are being rebalanced so that like higher tier pacifiers are still very useful, but the lower tier ones you need to be more careful when you pass enemies with that.
I love it. Let's go.
I did have a quick question with regards to weapon swapping as well. And right now, kind of the meta is to just have 14 weapons on your character, and you just swap between the specials that are used. Has anything been done to kind of address that, or is that an intended kind of feature?
It's not intended. Right now in this update, that is still probably the meta. There will be a fix coming to that later.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other question?
Sorry. If anyone else has questions too, feel free to pop in. I know that another kind of area, more on the PvP side, half the spells in game are not currently functioning on PvP with regards to like Mez, or Pacify or anything like that. There was talks, that there would be some kind of maybe like a CC cooldown for players or something like that. Is that still something that's coming? Will we be able to use Mez in this update or in the future on PvP?
Using Mesmerize in PvP is not something that's not possible right now. There has been some thought about doing diminishing returns for basically crowd control in PvP, but it remains to be like seeing how effective those are against then to be, have Mesmerize usable in PvP. So right now I would say the plan is not to have it usable in PvP, but it might change in the future.
Yeah. And I guess with like having the stun break spell as well, that I think adds a lot of new counterplay between shield bashing and all of that in PvP anyways with CC.
So there's another thing, especially for PvP, that we added is that if you block the damage of whatever is causing harm to you by 50% or more, it also doesn't or negates the kind of like other negative benefits from the spell. or ability. Like for example, the 100 spear special does a snare. But if you block that special, the snare isn't being applied to you anymore. So blocking becomes much more important in PvP. Also, regarding the damage balancing, you notice that all of our weapons have like a combos. So the last hit is always heavier than the first hits of combo. So blocking that last hit is going to be more important because it does much more damage than the others. Also a tactic that players need to be aware when fighting in PvP.
And then as far as blocking goes, are there any plans to introduce any type of like counterattack or dodge or other mechanics to amplify the expertise in combat?
So defensive abilities are something that we want to introduce in some form at some point in the future. But right now, like immediate plans, there's no plans to like we don't know what the plan for that is. Like the details of that, it's still kind of in the flux. So some kind of defensive abilities for players is in the plans.
Awesome.
And this might be a too technical of a question, but for spell canceling, I know that some players really like to have the ability to queue up their movement while the spell is channeling. Is there going to be some way, because it looks like any kind of movement input is going to cancel your spell? Is there any way that you could turn that off and just make it like block is to cancel things and your movement might not do that? So players can still, for those people really trying to get precision in there the first second that they can move after casting that spell? Or is it going to be more, you have to be able to time it right, and that's part of the player's skill for that?
So of course we can think about like adding options for players that would prefer to customize the experience, but I would say that I think those players would do themselves a disservice if they would lock themselves in, at least in PvP situations. I think they're gonna benefit from being able to cancel out of movement, but if there's a lot of demand for customizing that, like disabling movement cancels, we can consider it.
And then I have a question too, especially as we start moving into strategy with combat and fighting in between like server nodes or zones. Let's say I'm running from somebody that's shooting at me and I happen to cross a server zone. Is that going to cancel out the projectile that's firing, or is that like a mechanic that we would be able to abuse essentially so we don't take damage by crossing in between server clusters?
Sulka, this is probably to you.
So if you're doing PvP across, like basically right at the zone boundary.
Yeah.
So I guess currently, yeah, I guess like in even the Lyonesse, you can get to that situation if you're like actually like lagged and you run into the portals. I guess like in the future, basically the what we're trying to do with the level design is actually like minimize the amount of combat that actually happens at the borders, because we know that it's like the zone transition is like inherently unpredictable exactly how the client and server behaves like when you're crossing over, because like they need to manage the state transfer between the two. So I guess basically it sounds like we just need to make sure that it just doesn't happen. Like look more into like just really making sure that there's no compensations on the borders, because it's just super difficult to manage.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, I guess having said that, I guess that we don't want the zone borders to be something where like you can actually like escape easily, like by just like running for extended periods of time. So yeah.
Yeah, because like if somebody's like, let's say I'm taking arrow fire, and then all I have to do is cross the border, and it nullifies the projectiles, and then I could just go back in and continue fighting, right? So that's what we were curious about.
another question, don't hesitate. Nina, Ava, maybe not on combat, but if you have questions on other topics.
Yeah, I have a question on another topic, actually about
Yep.
TPs. Yeah, the question is, we actually have a lot of TPs, right? But sometimes it feels that it's not kind of useful, you know, because you are somewhere and you have to walk like 40 minutes, and it's like if there is something that you can TP from somewhere to another place, it's gonna be a lot better, you know, rather than walking 40 to an hour. Is there any plans?
Peter, you want to cover that? Because incidentally, we're just talking about this today.
Yeah. There are plans there are plans for that.
Okay, interesting.
Not ready to share too much more about that, but yeah, there are plans to for fast travel.
Yeah, but as just like we've said earlier, like fast travel is really hard design space for us because we don't want to trivialize the travel either, because the fact that actually there are distances, it should matter, especially for the game economy. So what we'll probably do is like any fast travel is going to come with the constraints on how much you can actually carry with you when you travel fast. So for example, like if you're actually going somewhere to get resources, what's probably going to happen is that at the beginning of a game session, you might be able to fast travel somewhere and then play, but you might, like if you're actually carrying something valuable, you might actually want to run back. So we're not going to be like goods transportation is probably going to continue to be something that actually like the things are partly valuable, because it might be difficult to get something from where you are, and you either need to go and get it yourself, or maybe with the upcoming changes, like maybe pay somebody to get it for you.
To continue maybe on the same topic, but I remember when you had spoken about the church, you said that with the blessing there would be also some TP and so on. I fully understand for the economy that it's not good if I can just TP to the seller or the buyer. I'm not talking about that, but today really, which is really painful, is when you have to go to a dungeon, which is on the other side, on the other map, or maybe to be able to teleport on the plot on some clan members and so on. I think we are not talking about the same thing. I understand we must keep the game quite not too easy, but at the same time there are a few situations, honestly, especially the dungeons, or maybe to go to the Lyonesse when you want to PvP for half an hour only. Honestly, there are, I think, a lot of things we could do without going too far.
Yeah, exactly. And the kind of the design space where we're thinking about the TP and fast travel is exactly what you mentioned, but that's still kind of that's essentially what we are kind of that we're actively planning right now, and sort of the church and religious system like comes with like a limited currency that you could use. So you could if you, let's say your clan has like a base on the other side of the province or in the neighboring province, and you like every now and then need to go back and forth, or you need to get to a dungeon that's on the other side of the map. And then that would be a utility that you could use to do those things.
Is that something?
Blood, maybe. Sorry.
Is that something that you anticipate others will be able to utilize to get to you as well? So, you know, if
you mean like a rally or a muster or something like that?
Yeah, like if, you know, I have a group of friends that are in a different clan in a different area, they can kind of, you know, go to that same point kind of thing.
Yes. So yeah, the fact that I mentioned clan there didn't mean that doesn't mean that it was like clan specific or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of guilds and player-driven content, how do we see guild dynamics and territorial control evolving as the game matures?
So I guess that's something we're actively talking about right now. And I'm actually kind of hoping that we would be able to give you a bit of a roadmap soon. But the direction that we're basically heading is as we said a bit earlier, so the way we're thinking about PvP and basically the kind of warfare is that the clans are mostly about the kind of the peaceful loops of building in the heartlands and the basically building villages, and the feudal organizations related to war actually are a separate organization on the side of these. So we're obviously a lot of clans are going to be so in some cases it's essentially going to be the same organization, both on the PvP side and the same clan building village. But this is a parallel organization basically on the side, and you can choose to join that regardless of what your clan is actually doing regarding PvP. And we do want to have this basically mechanisms by which they can compete meaningfully, and there's probably going to be building mechanics outside of the heartlands that are going to be related to actually the competition between the feudal organizations or at least players who are basically want to live in more dangerous areas. But we're actually coming up with deciding on some of the mechanics that we're going to be starting to implement the first in that space. So not coming in the next few months, but very actively being actually designed right now.
That's cool.
If I can have a very important and central question. Will the trees continue to grow again and again and again on our plots?
So in this update, I think so, yes. But we're actually the things we're looking into is probably block trees from growing on your plot. We're looking into, and we're looking into right now the entire plot blocks, all the resources being spawning on the entire area of the plot, and we actually might be able to change that so that the only the parts that are built on the plot blocks the resources. You can still you can start to build on the side of a lake and still actually have some of the clay appear next to your house.
And related to the trees, conversely, also allowing you to plant trees basically where you want them for aesthetic reasons and or for farming.
When maybe the herbalist will be finished. In fact, I suppose, because there are still it's herbalism, yeah, I think so, the English name for that, and the jeweler also, the missing professions. I suppose for the plant trees, it will be connected with the herbalism profession.
Sorry, I didn't catch
I think
the question.
he's referring to the crossbow, because the crossbow was removed before.
No, sorry, I was still on the trees, but maybe the audio is not good. I was saying we still have missing a few professions like herbalism. I don't know the English name for that. So I suppose that it's connected with planting trees and replanting the forest.
Potentially connected to that, yeah. But but like you mentioned, jewelry, herbalism, to some extent, alchemy is fairly slim. Some of the professions are either sort of missing or not very, very well fleshed out yet. We do want to give those attention and do them really well. And we have some progression, of course, with tree chopping and mining and prospecting. We're just starting to add a bit of progression for gathering, but it's not there yet.
Kind of on the topic of that as well, with the addition of skinning, do you see similar kind of gathering professions for things like gathering flax or other types of resources? And then also on the flip side of that too, armor smithing and blacksmithing and weaponsmithing have a lot of love, where it seems like there's a very clear, you go and mine, that's a mining discipline. Then you have your blacksmithing, which kind of refines it, and then you have your armor smithing, which makes it. Is that kind of a tree that you're planning for things like leatherworking or tailoring as well?
Yeah, I mean, they may not necessarily be completely symmetrical, but yes, like for these different parts of the process, we'd like it to be like give people avenues to be like specialize more. That's kind of what I was referring to with like, yeah, giving gathering a bit more progression and make it a bit more interesting. Because right now you're basically just walking around picking up stuff from the ground, and there's not very much like skill or character progression involved, other than just like game knowledge and understanding where to find them.
So with that being said, like what is like your ideal vision, you know, from a development standpoint as to how you guys want players to be able to influence the world and shape their own stories within Pax Dei?
That's pretty broad.
That's a good question.
But I think the basically a lot of that the discussion we're having over the like how we do the bigger organizations of like allowing you to grow like social organizations bigger than the clans, and like the clans to join together and like in some cases compete over like controlling pieces of land outside the heartlands. Obviously it's going to hugely affect how the individual world or like the shards feel, because those organizations are maybe like probably feel different depending on who's actually leading them and like how they choose to play. And so the long-term vision we'd had for the game for a very long period of time actually revolves a lot about the giving players the capability of like actually like forming these like large like kingdom level basically organizations, and how you choose to actually use them to shape how the other people need to play the game in that world.
Yeah.
And is that going to go ahead?
No, just real quick. To me, it boils down very much down to like when you meet someone and like you know, some years after playing the game and you're reminiscing about it and telling stories, like all of the stories about the people who played the game and like what they did and how it was different from somebody else. And it's not really about the game. Like, don't really want the game to be in the way of like people telling their own stories. And so the societies and things that happen on one server to the next are like as unself-similar as possible, that they're like actually, and that's kind of I think why the building system shines really well, because it makes everything is visibly different and visibly unique. When you're playing the game, you feel very much like you're doing something that nobody else has done, because your buildings are different. That's kind of how we think of the social structures and how people progress through the game in their kind of in their feudal organizations or clans or other kind of meta structures like the churches and whatnot, that people have enough kind of like a simple, interesting rule set to play with that allows them a lot of freedom and agency to do, to have like unique experiences that are cool and shared with other people. I know that answer was also really broad and didn't give you like a specific thing, maybe.
No,
That's kind
perfect.
of that's very much how we think about the game, and when we're really kind of evaluating what features and what efforts are worth it doing. If that we're, sometimes we need to curate a little bit, with the experience that you have, but we try to do it as little as possible and rather have like try to make simple rules that allow people to have unique experiences that don't feel very much curated.
It makes sense because especially when we saw the Unreal showcase with the modular armor and the customization,
Yeah.
Is that a similar approach that you guys want to take to skill building and essentially class formation with the player base?
Maybe Christian, if you wanna. Do you have
What
thoughts
was the
on
question, sorry? I was too
Like
focused on playing, actually.
Oh no, because the way that you guys are like, you do the building system, right, which is amazing, right, and you have all these modular features, and then when you guys showcase the armor customization as well at the Unreal showcase, is developing and designing our characters in terms of skills and professions and creating our own class, is that kind of going to be handled in the same kind of modular function?
Funny that you discuss about RPG, because that's also one of those things that we just talked about today. It's something that we are looking at, but the plans for those are not nailed down yet. So what we're looking to do is to do class basically have cloth wearers, leather wearers be useful in their own way in combat, but the exact details are still in flux and being discussed.
So reading through the questions in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to take one of them, some of them as you want. It was prepared before, of course.
Yeah. Well, the really easy one. So two-handed sword. The simple reason that I want to remove is the we wanted each one of the weapons in the game to have like some unique flavor of capability, and for this update, we just didn't have the time to actually make sure that all the weapons in the game have some like meaningful differentiation. So I'm sure the two-handed swords, they will make a comeback eventually, but that needs to come with some specific use for the weapon type.
To be clear, it's not all two-handed swords, it's the great swords.
Yeah. The like Zweihander?
Right.
Yes. So this is basically a two-handed sword. And still in the game.
Lore, yes, we very much still like are intending to put a like more into the game. I was just actually maybe reading some text that's going to be appear in items that you can find, not in this update, but in the future. And the basically the night church stuff, we're like actually making some of that right now. We don't know exactly, so it's gonna appear in like small pieces over time. So there's not going to be like we'd like to get some of those things into the game as soon as possible. So we're not going to be waiting for a like mega update that introduces a massive amount of features in one go. And yeah, so we're like, I'm hoping that the next bigger update is going to have some of it. But we actually just don't know yet.
Got it. And would you say that the economy system, or like gold, is that something that you guys are more focused on now than the feudal system?
Yeah. So the so basically the market's gold and useful gold is that's the next major thing that we really want to put in the game, and we want to to come to your hands as soon as possible. So that's the so there's couple other things we're doing as well, but the markets is basically that's the main push in terms of the gameplay.
But I'm sorry, but will be like a trading post or like vendors in our base or something like that.
Yeah, I guess we haven't really discovered. Peter, can you remember? Like, did we ever really tell anything about it?
I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure how much detail we've shared about that yet. But essentially, it's kind of harks back to what I was saying earlier, like trying to provide like simple mechanics that give players the ability to kind of, provide content for other players. So vendors no, but essentially players and player organizations will be able to build their own markets and put up wares for sale. That's kind of the core of it. We'll continue working on it to make it easier to kind of browse markets in the area and set up buy orders for items, things like that. But yeah, we're actively working on basically the markets that you can build and set up for like visiting travelers and traders to sell your goods, and gold, of course.
Yeah, and part of the future, the market's obviously also going to be that the strategic placement of where you're running your market is going to be super important. So right now you can only like obviously build them with heartlands. That might change, and so the amount of things you can get in each one of the heartlands. So like we're looking into making the economy deeper as well, where you live is actually like you're always going to have some things available in your local area that might be very hard to get somewhere else in the world. And conversely, like vice versa as well. So like if you actually like live on the opposite corners of the world, those people will have something you want, and the other way around. So actually, like working as a traveling salesman is going to be a lucrative business for some of the players.
One question that I would kind of add on to that for the market system is, I would imagine some of these new PVE sites are going to be where we might acquire gold in the future. But what typically when you add gold, it's because there's some intrinsic kind of sink that's going to receive all of this gold that gives it that intrinsic value. Can you maybe share a little bit of what that intrinsic value might be in the future? Or is that too difficult of a question?
No, it's not a question. Like,
No.
I'm not sure if I want to spill the beans on that.
Okay.
No, I'm just smiling because I think there have been like 5 or 6 great questions in this interview that we literally had extensive meetings on today and yesterday.
So there will be intrinsic value though that you're working on for this. It's not just going to be
very valuable. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess the takeaway, even though we cannot talk about those things, is that we are probably working on the right things. So what the community wants, we want to also build, but we are not there yet. So we are working on them like all the time.
Yeah, but yeah, basically the just regarding the gold economy, because obviously we've been working on like MMOs before and and playing a lot of MMOs, and we think like one of the critical aspects of like having the gold economy actually be something that will continue to work in the future is that there needs to be such a good gold sink in the game that everybody's gonna want basically like to have like endless amount of gold, and you have the opportunity to spend a lot of it. So the first version of the gold sink might not quite get there, but we're gonna be adding more content into it, and I think I'm very happy about what we're building right now to be able to provide a robust sink.
Okay, and you mentioned, you guys mentioned that, economy is going to be a thing, and then being able to create clans and then form feudal systems are also going to be a thing. How do you guys plan to keep the balance between PvE and PvP to keep both sides of the field relevant and still fun for your players?
I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
the
$100 question.
I mean, the core of the answer, really, to my answer at least to that, is that like each of the kind of the established game loops in the game, whether it's gathering or crafting or building buildings or doing PvP or doing PvE or any combination of those things, we're making sure that players who are like hardcore kind of focused on any of these game loops are producing some kind of value that like they're doing the best. They're producing some kind of value that's like that their clan needs, whether it is gathering like bulk materials, gathering magical relics, earning gold, etc., or like producing consumables. So we're kind of, as we are actively working on our kind of PvP and territory control plans, we are like taking care to make sure that PvPers have something really valuable to gain that is valued by other people in the player base, and at the same time making sure that like people who are farming or crafting or are focusing on like raiding dungeons, that they're also like earning something that they're earning something that how do you say, that isn't more easily done in a different game loop. So like people who want to raid dungeons and that they're hardcore kind of dungeon runners or PvEers, that they're bringing value into the game, into the economy that you can't really get any other way.
Yeah, the PvP setup that we'd love to get, actually, there's some pretty strong incentives for even the PvPers to like not just blindly kill everybody in the PvP areas. Because right now, like if you go to Lyonesse, you can basically you just like no reason not to kill anyone you meet. But the way we're actually looking at it is like making it so that the PvPers actually are probably going to be incentivized to police their own areas and keep people safe, where they're in control, because it's in their economic interest to actually make sure that is the case. Because at least to be like the PvP, which is just like everybody's after each other, that's kind of like the most boring version, because you don't really need to care about factions. You just like kill everything on sight, and we're actually like looking to do something a bit deeper and more complicated.
Okay. And as we move through this PVE and PVP evolution, how is magic going to come into play, and how will that evolve over time?
I mean, Christian, of course, if you wanna talk through it, but I mean, magic, at least as present in the game right now, with like spells and combat and stuff like that. I mean, you want to add a much larger library of like special abilities and spells that people kind of theory craft around and come up with classes and to be able to like fill different roles in combat. But then outside of combat, even we're part of some other stuff that we were just talking about also involves like non-combat magic and spells and like miracles and rituals and things like that can affect the world, and it can affect activity that you're doing outside of combat when you're like crafting and gathering and getting blessings from like divine blessings and stuff like that. Yeah, so magic is like, it's a big part of kind of the storytelling, the world storytelling that we want to do, and so yeah, we're working on that. I don't know if that answers the question necessarily, but yeah.
Oh, it definitely does. Definitely does.
Okay.
I can let my imagination run wild now.
Yeah, and there's also like while magic in the game is gotten from dungeons mostly, and it's kind of rare. All of it's player crafted in a way, but we want to have some magic that is more common, but while still keeping like those more rare ones that really take effort to get. So there's probably going to just be more of it, where you're gonna see common ones, maybe weaker ones, and maybe then even stronger ones that are even more rare. So very vague, but
I think we're running
Yeah.
out of time. I'm sorry, we need to stop right now. If you guys still have some questions that were not answered, you can send them to me by DM and we'll try to reply to them in written form. I'm taking your questions, but if you can still send them to me by DM, that would be great. I don't promise we will answer everything because some things we are keeping secret for now and we can't go into too many details, but we'll do our best. As I mentioned, there is an embargo for this interview until next Monday, the 29th, so that everyone has time to prepare their article or videos. If you have any questions, just poke me. In any case, I want to thank everyone for participating. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
nice day.
Nice seeing you
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.